Hello and welcome, this is Melskinner, and we're back with some more Neo Scavenger, and we're going to be trying another run, and it has been a little while for me. It hasn't been for you guys, but I record these in batches, and it has been some time since I've recorded the last batch. But fortunately for me, with that time off, I have seen some comments that have actually been very helpful, and as I'm pretty new to the game, I think I could really do with that help. So I very much appreciate the tips and pointers that people have been giving me in the meantime for the series. With that being said, I do want to do something a little bit different with this playthrough, because in the previous playthroughs, I depended a lot upon melee skill to give me success, and I would like to instead change that to ranged combat. Another thing that I'd like to do is something of a challenge, and I'm going to call that challenge that I'm not a cannibal challenge, because in the last playthrough, I ate a lot of people, and I used that as a source of food, and honestly, there are downsides to doing that for sure, but in a way, I think it adds a little bit more difficulty to try not to be a cannibal, and I think it's also maybe even an honorable path to take, so I think it'd be fun to try it. One of the reasons, though, in the last playthrough that I did go the cannibal route, when I did that build, I kind of expected to come across a lot of dogs because in previous playthroughs I had, but in that playthrough I didn't see any dogs at all. I saw dog men, but no actual dogs. You usually encounter quite a few feral dogs. Didn't encounter any in that playthrough. Instead, I was just encountering people. And, well, when it came time to need to eat, killing a person, well, it's food there, so that's what happened. So, because we're trying not to be cannibals, I'm going to also be changing up what abilities I choose, and I think I'm going to go with botany to help us out here. Now, this makes not being a cannibal rather easy, honestly, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to supplement the challenge with the ranged abilities so that we can use that to help us hunt. There are times that I've come across deer, and maybe we can, shoot them with a bow and arrow or some other ranged attack that we get and use that as a source of food as well. As far as other abilities I'd like to take, as much as we didn't end up needing it at the end of the last playthrough I did, the trapping skill is extremely important because it allows you to build fires without tools. And as a result, I am going to be taking that. Now, that does not leave me a lot left for points, and I really want to take the tough ability because I've had other playthroughs kind of fall apart because of infections and things, and I really don't want that to happen. So I'm going to take the insomnia flaw again, like we did in the last playthrough, and I'm going to take tough. So the main thing that we're switching up with this playthrough is we're swapping out the melee ability for ranged, and we're swapping out medic for botany. Now, medic is quite good as it allows you to identify medicines, and it also gives you a lot of information that you normally wouldn't have. But I think the botany ability is going to really help us in survival, and this is what this playthrough is all about, at least with most of our abilities: botany, trapping, and tough. Range is mostly going to be for combat, and in the early stages of the game we will have a little bit of difficulty because we won't initially have a ranged combat weapon, but we're going to go ahead nonetheless. So let's go ahead and confirm our selection and start another playthrough. I'm going to approach this as if you have not seen any of my coverage of this game in the past. So I am going to be reading through a lot of the things that I've already read through in previous playthroughs, in case that is the case for you. So you wake up disoriented, slumped over the base of an empty cryosleep pod. Still damp from cryo fluid, the thick dust from the floor clings to your skin, leaving a clean spot on the ground where a large O5 is painted. Across the room, there is an open door to the hallway and a broken window leading outside. Just as you gather your wits, an unearthly scream erupts from down the hallway. Beyond the doorway, something is coming fast. Alright, so at this point we have two choices, and this is usually how you interact with any events that are going on in the game. Choice number one is to jump out the window. I've never really done this, but I can just assume that we'll get cut up on broken glass and things, so I don't think this is the choice we're going to do. Instead, we're going to choose the only other choice we have, which is using our botany ability to confront whatever is coming down this hall. A plant catches your eye as you scan the room for supplies. I'm not going to try and read this as my Latin is pretty much non-existent. The castor oil plant is growing in from the window. You remember that this plant can be highly toxic, and most animals will avoid it if possible. Breaking off some branches, you quickly stomp on the leaves and seeds, rubbing the fragments on your feet and hands. You scatter the rest in the doorway just in time. The predatory dog-like creature comes to a halt as it reaches the doorway, sniffing the plants and shaking its head in disgust. You thrust your hands toward it, and it steps back further, obviously uninterested in your toxic scent. With one more huff, it pads down the hall, looking for more palatable prey. Alright, with that being done, now we have another option here, and that's to search the console. You're standing in a cryostasis room, though it looks like you might have been the only survivor. So if we take a look at the console, I'm not going to read all this in detail, but more or less this gives you an idea of the different people that are in the cryo facility, and we know because of the previous description that we came out of 05, and that is listed here. So we are Philip Kindred, and we don't have a whole lot of information here outside of a account number for the Detroit Savings Bank. And then we have a couple other people here. One of them is a reality TV star, I believe, and the other one is a CEO or some kind of businessman as well. Okay, well, moving on. That's pretty much it for now, so we're just going to climb out the window. But we're not as much in a hurry, so you decide to go outside and see if you can figure out where you are. Avoiding the broken glass, you step onto the sill and outside, rustling some plants that have grown wild in the area. It's cool outside and damp, probably morning. The distant report of a gun catches your attention. You cock your head, listening, but it's over as quickly as it started. Obviously, you're not alone out here, though that doesn't necessarily comfort you. You're in the parking lot of the Geiges. I'm not exactly sure if that's how it's pronounced, but that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Geiges Cryo Facility. But everything looks disused and in disrepair. Plants have pushed their way through the pavement over the facility. Worst of all, nothing looks familiar. You don't remember this place or even who you are. Your frustration mounts, but you can catch it and put it in check. Or you catch it and put it in check. Might as well take a look around. Alright, so we have ourselves in the world now, and first thing I'm going to take a look at is the weather. So it's cool, overcast, and drizzling, and it's currently dawn. This is bad for us if we take a look at our inventory, because all we have on us is a hospital gown and we're strapped with our name on it, and a little necklace. That's it. And then around the area, we have some broken glass. So, with the weather being as it is, we need to find clothing soon, or the elements will really come to haunt us. We'll develop hypothermia and more than likely die. And this game is very hardcore. It is very difficult, and it's all about survival. With that being said, we can do some crafting. And a weapon might be important, and we can make a weapon out of these glass shards, but they're not in particularly good condition. So I think I'm just going to move on, and we'll go to these group of abandoned houses and trailers, as there may be something that we can find there. As you approach the town, there is no sign of activity. Buildings stand in ruin, vehicles are overturned and blackened with fire, explosion marks radiate outwards from walls and pavement. In the distance, strange-looking creatures circle in the sky, like monstrous leathery vultures. The world has drastically changed from what you knew. Some sort of cataclysm has befallen Earth, returning mankind to the Dark Ages. And along with it, your hopes of finding a warm meal and some answers. You decide to look around and scavenge what you can from the ruins. Alright. So, let's go ahead and scavenge, and we do that by pressing this button here. We do have action points that we use every turn, and the number of action points that you have are based off of a number of things. Usually the default is 5 in a turn, but we only have 4, and there's a reason for that, and I'll showcase that after we do the scavenging. But right now, this is the scavenging screen, and if we take a look, in this area, we have a number of buildings. So we have an abandoned mobile home, we have a locked storage shed, which we cannot do anything with because we don't have the tools or the abilities to access it at this point. We have an abandoned mobile home, another one, and then a storage shed that's not locked. All right, so if we click on this abandoned mobile home, we will scavenge it. And this is very important in the early stages of the game. As I said, we start with nothing. And our survival very much depends on us finding things. So at each location that we can scavenge, you're going to get a basic description of what type of building this is. Every time we come across a building of the same type, we're going to get the same description. So the three important things that we're going to want to focus on is these three bars here, and that's the loot, safety, and sneak bars. The bar indicates, at least for the loot, how likely you're going to find anything at this location. So the more full the bar, the more likely you're going to find items. Safety is how safe it is to search in that location. So the more full the bar is, the more safe it is. The less full it is, the more dangerous it is. So what that means is there's a chance, for example, what might cause it to be unsafe is maybe the structure of where you're searching is not particularly stable. So it could collapse on you, and as a result, you could be hurt. You could come across broken glass. You could cut yourself on that broken glass, and so on. And finally, we have the sneak bar. This is how likely you will be discovered when searching this area. So the more full the bar is, the more stealthily you can do the search. The less full it is, the more likely you'll make too much noise and attract attention. Okay, with that being said, we don't have any abilities or items that are going to help us with this search. We can modify these bars with items or with abilities, but unfortunately we have neither. So we're just going to have to do a default search. And we did get lucky and find something, and we also did not arouse suspicion, so that's good. To take a look at what we found, we can go ahead and click on the inventory here. Now, I didn't look to see what was here when I went into the space, but just to go over what we found, we have a handful of string. This isn't going to help us right now, but it's something we can use to craft. We found tarp. Again, not necessarily going to help us right now, but we can use that to craft. As a matter of fact, we might be able to do something with the string and the tarp. And we also found a plastic bottle, which is a storage container. It's going to be able to store liquids. Unfortunately, it doesn't have anything in it, so until we find liquids to store in it, it's not going to be useful right now. Outside of that, we have some not very useful items. We have a scratched UVD, scrap of foil, a scrap of paper. These will oftentimes have, as we see here, crafting recipes written on them. So if we want a box cart, this is how we would make it, although we do need mechanical skill, which we don't have. And then we found some pebbles. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look really quickly at the crafting menu. So to craft, and I'm fairly certain we can do this with what we've got, we can take the smaller string and turn it into a larger string. But just to see, I want to make sure that we can't do anything with the tarp just yet. So if we turn that into a larger string, now we have another option, as we can see with this arrow, and we can make ourselves a makeshift sack. This is going to be important because, as I was saying, we couldn't do things with some of these items right now. Well, that's because we couldn't carry them. We only have our hands to carry things in. So if we do this crafting, we can make ourselves a sack out of the tarp and the string. And we now have a means to carry items. So if we come over into our inventory, normally speaking, you just have your hands and your body to carry things. And really, your body is going to be carrying clothing, or you're going to be wearing clothing. And then the clothing itself may have the ability to carry items as well. But as you see here, this is a container. And when we put it in our hand, that's the only place we can put it. It doesn't count as a backpack. We put it in our hand. That now gives us access to a inventory space for that hand. So we can take this bottle, for example, and put it in that sack, and now we have that item. We can also take the string with us, which is an important item to take with us. So we're actually not doing too bad. Really, the problem that we have is we don't have any weapons to speak of right now. And that is going to remain a problem for us in this early stage of the game, especially with the build that we did. Okay, with that being said, let's go ahead and continue to scavenge here. So let's this time move on to the storage shed. Again, we won't be able to do anything with the locked storage shed, so I'm not even going to bother clicking on it. You will note that some of our actions were taken up by crafting, but it wasn't a full point. And that is important as well. So let's go ahead and confirm the scavenging of the storage shed. So here again, we have loot, safety, sneak. and we have a new description because this is a new type of building. We'll hit confirm. Unfortunately, we didn't find anything though, because that loot chance is not particularly high. Now you'll note on the map that there are two icons here. One, the box, indicates that there's items here, and the other one, the magnifying glass, indicates that we can scavenge at this location. The box, you might notice the golden halo around the magnifying glass. The box previously had that golden halo, but that only indicates, at least for the box, that that is a item that we haven't yet interacted with. Once we came in here and we actually looked at what was on the ground, this stopped having the halo. Now, as far as scavenging goes, once we scavenge all items here that we can scavenge, the magnifying glass will just disappear. So I don't think there's a way to remove the golden halo from magnifying glass, but let's just continue to scavenge here. Oh, there is one other thing that I wanted to showcase before. It's okay. We'll go ahead and do this. So we've got the abandoned mobile home. Now we'll note that the sneak chance is a lot lower with the abandoned mobile home than it was with the storage shed. Otherwise, more or less the same. We'll confirm. Fortunately, we found items. That's very good. We found ourselves a sleeping bag, which is going to be very useful, so I will take this with me. We found ourselves some dirty rags. We can put one on our mouth, which is going to give us a crude air filter. Another thing you'll note here is we have an item that's in red. It's called barefoot. Now, red items are obviously bad. Green items are better or good things. Now, it doesn't specifically say what this does, but I happen to know that being barefoot, not having anything on our feet, makes it so that we have less action points, or less action points. We'll call it that. It's called base moves, but I'll call it action points. You have less action points to use in a turn. Normally, our base would be 5, as I mentioned earlier, so that has been reduced by 1. We have another bottle here that we have found. And I should probably start sorting these in a little bit better fashion, because there is a little bit of inventory Tetris in this game. We also have a bottle that's full of a liquid. This is Coca-Cola, and it is filled. If we take a look at the bottle here, it is filled with Coca-Cola, which is a type of soda. Okay, so that is a beverage that we can drink. We do have our different bars here that is our current condition. We have sated hunger, slacked thirst. Oh, well, we'll just call it hunger, thirst, because this is an indicator of how you're doing. So right now we're doing quite well, so that shows us our fatigue or rest, how burdened we are, and our current comfort level, and then finally the outdoor temperature and our health, more or less, is this. Now, when you have the medic ability or skill, you get a little bit more information on the medical tab here about your actual status, but because we don't have the medic skill, we don't get that information, so we just have to go with what we've got. So we have a UVD case, which is filled with a UVD. Not really a useful item for us right now, so we're going to ignore that. All right, so we've scavenged everything we can scavenge here at the moment. So we're going to start moving on. Now, I don't really have an idea of where to move on. Because it's still dawn, we don't have the best visibility right now. So I can't see that far with what light we have, but as it goes through the day, we'll have a little bit better vision. Now, there are multiple turns in a day. It's not just one turn, then you're done with the day. As a matter of fact, there's multiple turns in a phase of the day. So it will be dawn, then it will be morning, then it will be midday, then it will be evening, then it will be dusk, then it will be night. So there are many phases in a day. So just to guess, I'm going to go ahead and move over here. And we have no more action points, so that we now have to end our turn. Our player is shivering, and that's because of the outdoor temperature being so low and the fact that we have no garments to protect ourselves with. So we're going to continue to try and search here. We're looking for more items that we can scavenge to increase our survival chances. So we're just going to continue to move. And it doesn't look like we've gotten particularly lucky with our starting location because there is not a lot in the way of scavengeable buildings that I'm finding. So we're going to need to end our turn again. And we're still in the dawn phase, as you can see here. So we're now going to jump on top of this hill. This is going to cost us more action points than just the one. And you can see the movement cost over in the lower left corner here. So we see flat grassland, movement cost 1. Hills or foothills, movement cost 2. So it's going to cost us more to jump on top, but it's going to give us a lot more vision of the area. So we see even more open terrain. This is very bad for us. Okay, we've found more scavengers, but we also have found a threat. This is bad because this dog can come over and attack me, and I have no weapons because we didn't craft one, we haven't found one, so we are unarmed more or less. Well, this is going to be a good point to go ahead and put a cut in the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and from here we'll pick up. I'm hoping the dog will not attack me, but considering that we're right here, it's more than likely going to see me and encounter me, so we'll have to deal with that in the next video. In case, I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.